Brampton looks amazing on paper. It's one of the most affordable entry points for most people into the GTA compared to Toronto. It's a family-friendly area. It's known as one of the most diverse cities in all of Canada. For a lot of people, that makes it feel like the perfect choice. But here's the truth. When people actually move to Brampton, the reality doesn't always match the brochure that they see. Because while Brampton's growing at a lightning pace, and yes, it has some newer subdivisions, it's expanding its schools, it's a vibrant cultural scene without a doubt, and there are some things that you won't hear about until it's too late. Once you've unpacked those boxes, locked in your mortgage rate, started living here, that creeping feeling of regret can hit you fairly fast. So in this video today, I'm gonna pull back the curtain a little bit and give you the biggest reasons why people regret actually moving to Brampton. Now, these are things that don't show up on MLS listings as you're scrolling through, but they absolutely can affect your day-to-day life. And if you're planning on moving here, there are things that you need to know. Now let's start with the number one pain point. That's traffic. The highways like the 410, Steeles Avenue, Queen Street, they're basically choke points for you trying to get around the city in rush hour. It has become quite unbelievable. A commute that might actually look like 20 minutes on paper might get you there in an hour in some cases. And it can be extremely frustrating, especially if you're trying to drive around and navigate your family through the city. Now, we have a live map tracker that's linked in the description box down below. Here's a picture of it here for you. You can definitely use this to navigate yourself around the city and figure out what time is the best time to get around. Now, if you're planning to commute into Toronto for work, that daily grind can be exhausting. If you don't drive, Brampton's transit is improving, which is great, but it's still not at the level of Toronto or in Mississauga. The Hurontario LRT is coming. It's still years away from completion. This means for most Brampton residents right now, Brampton is a car-dependent city, and that's not what a lot of people expect when they move here. They think it might be a little bit more easy to get around. Now, let's talk about the schools, because this is a big one, especially for families. Brampton has one of the youngest populations in Canada. Yes, that's correct, which means schools are overflowing with students right now. Portables are everywhere, and in many cases, these kids end up being bused to schools outside of their actual neighborhood because their local one might already be full. Now, you might have seen a precursor to this if you've got kids and you are trying to get into the daycare system. You're going to be waiting until your kid is way past the daycare age to get them into a daycare. Now, another surprise for many newcomers coming to Brampton, it's actually the property tax. If you're buying a home in Brampton, Brampton's property tax rate is higher than Toronto, Mississauga, and Vaughan. So yes, you might get more house for your money up front, but that's something to consider. You're going to have higher property taxes and more bills to pay. Now, first-time buyers, you might already be stretching your budgets here, and those annual tax payments, they might feel like a gut punch to you at the end of the day, but look at your numbers ahead of time. Talk to somebody who understands what's going on in the area you are looking to purchase your property, so that way there's no surprises when you do move into your property. Now let's get into something that a lot of people, they end up whispering about. They actually don't discuss it openly, and that's going to be crime and the safety. Now, Brampton, it's not unsafe. Families live here, they raise their kids here, they enjoy life here. But the crime rate is higher in some categories compared to the other GTA cities that surround it. Car theft, for example, is a big issue here in the Brampton area, especially with SUVs and luxury vehicles. You've seen it in the news. There's plenty of articles like this one that we've got here on screen. And here's the Peel regional statistics here for these crime rates, and that you can go through and figure out if it is something that does scare you off or not. And of course, there is a CBC article here from CBC talking about the auto thefts in the GTA. Now, this brings me to neighborhoods, because Brampton is huge. It's got great pockets. It feels completely different in one pocket to the next. So if you don't own your home, so if you don't actually do your homework, you can end up in an area that just doesn't feel like your style or your vibe, or doesn't have what you need for your family. Now, Castlemore, for example, it is known for its larger upscale homes. Downtown Brampton, you might have some charming historical character style homes, but it's still transitioning in many ways across the city. Mount Pleasant Village, for example, is built around more of a transit hub with denser housing and more of the builder vibe, and it's a little bit more busy with what's going on there right now. And then you've got, of course, newer subdivisions near Mayfield where there's tons of first-time buyers trying to secure their first property, but the commute to Toronto ends up being a little bit more long and a little bit more frustrating. Now, one of the biggest regrets that people have is not taking enough time to match the neighborhood that they choose to the lifestyle that they're living in or maybe living in the future. On paper, of course, a house might look perfect, but you have to look beyond the actual house itself. That can't be the only deciding factor. If the surrounding area doesn't necessarily check the boxes on how you live or how you want to live, it might lose its appeal fairly quickly. Now, we can't continue this conversation until we talk about growth. Brampton is the second fastest growing city in all of Canada. Now, that means construction. Yeah, it's everywhere right now. Newly built plazas, you're talking new construction, condos that are being put up. Now, while this might be exciting if you live in the city because it's a sign of more opportunity, hospitals need to be built, schools need to be built, community centers need to be built, it might leave you feeling just a little bit more overwhelmed than you would like to. But here's the flip side of it. If you can understand how Brampton is actually evolving for you and your family, there's a lot of real opportunity here, hidden beyond the frustration of some of the things we've talked about. There's transit expansion products like that LRT. The bus is improving year over year. There's community amenities that are constantly popping up, and just something as simple as the farmer's market where you can visit one of my good friends at the Mr. Brewer and grab a cup of coffee on a Saturday morning is going to make the transition to Brampton feel great for you. Now, the key here is not just to look for a price and square footage of a property. You need to actually dig into more things like the schools, the neighborhoods, the commute times, future city plans, and Brampton, like mentioned, is full of that opportunity, but do not go in here blind making your decision. You're going to risk making one of the most expensive mistakes of your life, because if you haven't sold a home, that becomes a lot more expensive down the road. Now, I'm going to put together a free buyer's guide for you guys that'll be in the description box down below. It's going to give you some real world tips where you can really just navigate the home buying process a little bit easier. Now, this video, although there are some doom and gloom factors to it of why not to live in Brampton, there's a lot of good things that you may want to consider. And if you're interested in the Brampton real estate market, you can watch the most recent housing update here on what's actually happening when it comes to the statistics in the market. And if you're thinking, hey, now's a good time for me to start my home buying process, this might be the better video for you to click on right here. Thank you so much for watching this one. I'm going to see you in the next video. Bye for now.